just wanted to acknowledge some information that is given in the beginning of this podcast regarding the AB5 law. In my research leading up to getting ready for this episode, I found an article that was informing us that the federal government was mulling over whether or not to implement AB5 nationwide. And it turns out that they decided to not implement AB5 nationwide because of the negative impacts that it's had on workers in California. However, they still did implement the ABC rule. And the ABC rule is a more simplified way to tell whether or not you should be classified as an employee or independent contractor. So the ABC rule, what it does is it strengthens strippers' positions as employees if and when you want to unionize, class action lawsuits, etc. It's there as an added measure, but they are not going to be forcing club owners in any other state besides California to classify you as employees as of right now. That could change. I'm not sure how, but I'm just not trying to say anything forever. So we can all rest easy in knowing that AB5 will not impact your current job at the strip club anytime in the near future, unless you're in California. We will also be including a link to an article that explains everything that I'm saying here and what I say a little later in the content coming up. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm AM Davies.
Hi, I'm Danica Darling.
I'm Riley.
Hey, we're doing a crossover episode. This is so exciting.
Yeah, yes, the stripper meets 50 balls of chips. Love a collab. So 50 balls of chips.
Yeah, it's our second time. It's been since 2020, I think, Danica, right?
It has been a hot minute since I saw your beautiful face and recorded with
I
you.
know. Same. And then since then, you two have gotten together, right? Because, yeah, Riley, I don't think I've met you before.
No. So I think we looked back actually, and your solo episode on 50 Plus a Tip was season 2, beginning of season 2.
Okay.
And now we're in season 6. 6, 7? Yeah.
Wow.
6. 7.
That's a lot.
Wow, I get this wrong every
7?
time. Season 7.
How many episodes a season do you
25.
do? Okay, so you've done like hundreds of episodes.
162 is coming out this week. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. This will be 120 something.
Okay.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. I love how you do seasons. I noticed that lots of podcasters do that, and I'm just like, let's just work all the time.
Yeah. It's definitely nice for us to have that like conscious light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I think you guys are doing a great job. It's been really awesome to see your content lately. And I noticed that you just did an interview with Tammy. And she's amazing. So jealous that you got her on the show, by the way.
Yeah, it was awesome. She was awesome. It was a hot tea episode as well, so it was a good one.
Yes, I saw the post. I haven't listened to it yet, but I saw the post, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to listen.
Yeah,
to
it was a good one for sure.
Yeah, because I listened to you guys recently on a drive, and it's just, I don't know, I just love it. It feels like being in the dressing room or something.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Listening to you. Yes, which I miss terribly, so much.
When did you start performing?
I stopped in December of 2018 when I lost my foot.
Right.
So, yeah. But then I guess I did like online stuff too. Just not seriously. It was just to like keep my head above water. So yeah, I didn't take that nearly as seriously. I didn't like it. I don't really like doing online work. I prefer in-person interactions. I like to be engaged with. I'm a people person. I like people. Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked at length about Riley and I's stance on online work and how it's such a different beast to tackle, and we definitely prefer the in-person.
Yeah.
I've tried very briefly tamming, and then also OnlyFans, and it's just I can't be consistent enough with it. I do sometimes think about going back to like camming just because I feel like it would be a nice supplement when I don't know. Right. Not being able to have that visual feedback from people. You're just sort of like performing to your essentially yourself and then a bunch of like messages. So I really respect women who can like make a whole ass tree out of it.
I respect it too because it is hard. I was like, oh, I have like 50 bosses. I don't want you asking me what I'm doing next and like telling me what to do. It's like, yeah. So I feel like you have to go in like with like plan, you know. And I definitely was like, let's just get naked on the internet. Yeah. So, well, I'm glad I'm not alone on that island. So,
No,
thank you.
we're right there beside you.
Yeah, because like so many people are doing it, which I think is great. I think it's great. But yeah, I'm like, oh, I just suck at online shit. That's fine. Yeah.
Not my forte
Anyway.
for sure.
Right, right. So I wanted to tell you, I think that we should at least acknowledge what today is. Today was Eclipse Day, and I saw the eclipse today. Did you guys see it?
We did not. We were in another meeting in a dark studio. Oh. We did not get to see anything.
And even if it was outside,
So
it was
cloudy.
so cloudy in Memphis today.
Yeah, it got cloudy here. Yeah, we were switching between regular sunglasses and sunglasses, and we were like literally like any morsel of a glimpse we could get. We were like, oh, the sun is coming. It was amazing. It was really cool. We saw like about 80% totality, 90%, something like that. So it was a lot. It got dark and it got cold.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Our girlfriend lives near St. Catherine, and she was saying that Niagara Falls had to announce a state of emergency because it was supposed to be the best place to see the eclipse. And hotel rooms at like the Holiday Inn were going for $2,000 a night. So the city was like,
the Holiday Inn.
Yeah. They were like, you know,
In St. Catherine.
Yeah, we can't handle this. So they, literally declared a state of emergency
And like classes were canceled. Like, yeah.
Well, that makes sense that classes were canceled because like everyone should be, I don't know, it's an experience, you know, like the element and the planet and Earth, you know.
I mean, everything.
Yeah. It was like a nice collective moment, you know. It's like watching powers much, much larger and bigger than us do their thing. I'm fascinated by stuff like that. So it was really nice. Yeah. Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So today we're doing like updates. We're like sharing industry updates with each other, right?
That's the plan.
Right. That is the plan. I've been doing I had topics that that I had mentioned, but I ended up doing a little bit more research, and I think I uncovered something that people aren't talking about. And I was hoping we could talk about.
Yeah, do tell.
Do you think? Yeah. So I guess, first of all, for my audience to know, in case you don't know, Danica and Riley, they live in Canada. And so the rules that stripping, working in the clubs are a lot different than they are in the United States. But I do think that there is some crossover. And I think it's important for people to know what's going on in each country, because some people, do they travel and work? Like, do Canadians come down to the U.S. and work sometimes?
No, it is illegal to do that.
I don't think it'd be worth it financially for like American dancers to come to Canada.
Really?
No. Right.
Yeah, you all use, what's that?
Especially not Vancouver. Like the cost of living is way too high. Unless you have like a really good clientele out here already and like a good base,
Gotcha.
like you're just not going to make the money in the clubs here that you can make.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, it is still good in some of the clubs here, but like the economic and the exploitation has just, it seems to be getting worse over time. And also like the population is growing and inflation has gone up and the cost of working has gone up, but the cost of dances, etc., has not gone. And so that is quite a challenge. And I know from talking to strippers working on the ground that They have to like find very specific cities and clubs to work at in order to like really thrive how we used to. Because when I was dancing back in 2002, making $1,500 a night was absolutely normal, consistent. So, and now I mean, I danced for almost 20 years, and that just wasn't the case later on. Have you experienced that?
I have a follow-up question actually, because this is something I also talked about with Tammy. Do you remember the price of a lap dance when you started dancing, and then what it was when you finished dancing, as well as whatever percentage you had to give to the club?
Yeah. The price of the lap dance in 2002 for a topless lap dance was $20. The price of a lap dance in 2018 was $20.
So yeah, and I episode with Tammy.
And what was the tip out of that?
Yeah, with
The tip out was, I think the tip out would stay, it was pretty much the same. But it would be, you had to pay $8 out of the 20 for the dance, and then $1 to every staff member. So the DJ, the manager, and however many bouncers. And then you would pay maybe a little less to the bouncer who was outside as opposed to the one inside watching you. But that would be like 4 or 5 staff members, also the bar. So you're just tipping out the entire house. So I would say on a topless lap dance that cost $20, we were walking with less than 10, like around $7.
yeah, so that's wild. You have to tip every staff member, or because I've heard mixed things about the States. I've heard that like they don't tip out on dances, and I've heard that they do tip out on dances.
It probably, I mean, so much of it varies state by state because also like the laws vary as far as alcohol consumption. And so that's the other thing. Like if you're working in a club where there's no alcohol, like your payout is probably going to be higher because they have less to make their money on. Like they're selling $20 bottled water, like, or $20 pineapple juice, but you're only going to buy one $20 pineapple juice. That's expensive juice. So, like, if it's a $20 vodka drink, I'll probably buy more than one of those, right? But I'm not getting buzzed on pineapple. So, is it like federal? Do you guys do nationwide laws, or do you do
Provincial?
Provincial.
provincial as well? So, what I found in my research was, speaking of laws, there was a law in California that passed. You may have heard of it, AB 5. Have you heard of it on social media, whatnot?
That's not the employment thing, is it? It is? Okay.
Yeah, that's the employment thing. Though. Yeah, that happened several years back, but it's still really heavily affecting workers in the state, and not just strippers, but very much so strippers. And so what I read today was the ABC law that they put in place before the AB 5. It coincides, right? But the ABC, like, it's a rule, not a law. And it's a test to be like, if you're this and you're this and you're this, and you're an independent contractor. And if you don't answer yes to all of these questions, then you're an employee. And that's how you tell. You take this ABC test. And they implemented the ABC test right before AB 5 in California. Well, guess what? They just implemented the ABC test for the entire country. And that just went live last month. And there is talk of AB 5 being implemented federally in the United States on the internet. And it's fresh talk. It's fresh to me. Anyway, the articles that I'm reading are like January, February, March of this year. And AB 5 decimated the stripper community in California. It ruined, not the community, I should say, more the industry of how the dance was treated. I mean, you've seen the horror stories on social media, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit unfamiliar. I think the only knowledge I have is when we had Robbie Rye on the podcast, and she kind of explained that, well, she doesn't even dance in California anymore. But it just, they didn't guarantee you money, like they didn't pay you like an employee.
And so,
you give me the kind of lowdown of what this means.
Absolutely. Yes. So what it did was it forced strip club owners to recognize strippers as employees. And the purpose of that, the idea behind the law, was to give the employees more power to organize and unionize, because as independent contractors, we can't unionize. And it was, the idea of it was to like help with working conditions. But what it did with the strip clubs, who were already breaking the law and already not treating strippers as independent contractors, they just kind of doubled down on their efforts, and they fired their most marginalized dancers because they had to get rid of staff. Because it meant now that they would, if they had too many employees, they have to pay higher employment tax. So they don't want as much employment tax, so they have to get rid of employees. So the first to go are you're trans, you're queer, you're fat, you're black. That's what gets fired first. So first and foremost, it really damaged our marginalized community the most. Then they started doing these weird schemes where it's like hold on, let me get it right, because it's so complex what they did. They're like, you give us $50 and then you do this amount of dances and you don't get paid for those dances, so that you pay your $50 back to the club. Like weird twisted schemes. Like I can see the confusion on your face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, they made it confusing so people couldn't figure it out. They upped the house fee to cover. They're still charging house fees, but they're like camouflaging it as other things. It's been a mess, and the strippers do not like it. They do not like it. They're very unhappy. They want more control over their situation. And a lot of dancers left California, and a lot of dancers who would travel into California, like you said, don't go there anymore. What's going to happen if this gets passed all across the country federally? Because I'm reading the reports of how this affected all of these other gig workers all over the country. I mean, over 600 different professions this law has impacted in a negative way. So I literally just read all of this before we got on.
Well, don't come to Canada.
I don't understand how they can even ask, like, in no employment are you required to pay any type of money. And so I'm just so confused about how they're even getting away with this.
Because no one checks and nobody cares, and nobody comes to the support of strippers as far as like governmental politicians, any civilian situation, they don't care that much. It's our immediate communities and our friends that rally. But like, here's the other thing. When they passed AB 5, we at Strippers United told them to be sure that strippers were going to be okay. And we explained to them, these strippers have to pay up front to work and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, that's all going to go away. Don't worry about that. That is not true. That is not what it's at all. And I think that they think that with this new law, this is what they think, that workers can now sue their club and they can organize. What they don't understand is it's terrifying for strippers to do that. It's extremely complex process. And you have to be an exceptional group to do that, which we saw with the Star Garden dancers. Not impossible, but they lost months, if not a couple of years of consistent, steady work at the place that they were accustomed to working. Not to say that they couldn't work elsewhere or support themselves in other ways, but it massively disrupted their workflow, forced them to figure out all different new life scenarios. And it was terrifying. You get threats. The management was awful. They harassed them on the picket line. They did all kinds of weird shit behind the scenes. Some stuff I'm not at liberty to talk about. And it was terrifying for them. And it's terrifying in general to organize against a boss, an organized group of people who have been exploiting you for years. And I think in the States, they just slowly started to implement these fees, because when I was dancing, I wasn't paying house fees. I didn't pay money to walk through the door. I don't know how I would have handled that. But I paid out on my dances, which I thought, I'm like, that's normal. I'm renting this space. And I thought about it today and I'm like, does it make sense to pay out on your dances? Does it make sense to give them that money if they provide the building and the materials and the music and the couches? Like, is there a point where sharing some as a business expense makes sense, but there should be a threshold? What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I don't think that. I have had experiences with clubs where they do absolutely nothing to help you sell dances and then just want a piece of your pie. And we have talked about this also on the podcast, is that, and then again, maybe different in America, you know, that some places in America, you like get some commission if you sell bottles of champagne and stuff like that. But in my experience, you are always expected to tip out people for, I'm going to say this in quotes, helping you sell dances. But I have never been tipped out for helping a server sell a bunch of alcohol. I have never been tipped out for bringing good clients into the club. Like,
that's a good point.
It's very one-sided.
You're right. That's a good point. What's up with that?
Yeah, I'm big on like the concept of like, I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine. And I have no problem when a dancer like brings me on to dance, giving her like, if we make really good tip, like splitting it evenly, even if one guy tipped me more versus her. Like I'm like big on like making things like equal and fair,
Mutually
and like
beneficial.
yeah, and like, and you brought me in here, so I owe you a thank you. Not the minimum verbally, but like financially, because you've helped me financially. And I'm big on like, if a server puts me on to a good client, I'll throw her to the end of the night acknowledging like you helped me make that money. But we've had that conversation before where I've brought ballers to a fucking club and you're welcome. I just made you like tens of thousands of dollars this night at a club. Like, and the management didn't give me a kickback. They didn't like take care of my therapy the next day. Like they didn't do anything to make me encourage me to bring more money to their club. But like you just made so much money off my back and off the back of like my friends who have money or vice versa. And that kind of like when I'm like, I get a little resentful if I'm helping a place make money or a manager make money or a bartender make money or a server make money or another dancer. And there's no like gratitude shown in it.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right as far as like the server, when you're selling a bottle, like if you sold that bottle, the server's the one that gets the whole entire tip off of that.
Yeah.
And then you're right.
And Lord knows we go through bottles of champagne.
And also too, like we like a lot of times we don't like, I was sober for many years. So like every water shot you gave me, you just made $10 off like every not real shot I did. And like, there's never like any kind of like appreciation for me purposely sitting in your section to make you that money. And not that I do things to like get something back, but also when it comes like time and time again where I've like shown up for you and like there's no respect back or no, it's just like, I'll keep track of that. And I remember one time I had a really good paying client of mine come into the club and he bought us a bottle. It's like you can like recork and stuff. So we like, we're going to recork the bottle. So she didn't have to do anything with the server. Okay. They didn't even serve us the bottle really. She just brought it. I think she forgot it at one point. I texted her like, hey, can you bring that bottle? Because he wants to leave. And then he was going to recork it. And then he paid in tip. And then apparently, I guess he didn't tip as much as she'd wanted.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't really serve us. She just brought us the bottle. And then she had the gall to message and be like, hey, your client didn't tip me. I was hoping at least 40%. And I was like, okay.
What, like you're supposed to cover the rest?
Like, okay.
But that's what I mean is like, somehow we are trying to have this like symbiotic relationship with the club. We are still expected to give more.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
Or I mean, the concept of like, I've heard bouncers like, not at the club specifically I've been working at because like I have a really good relationship with a lot of the bouncers, but I have like moonlit at certain clubs and hear gossip in the change room and stuff where like bouncers will like not give a fuck or like do anything to help you out unless you tip them. It's like, why am I tipping you to do your basic expectation of your job. Your job is literally to protect the women here, and you won't even lift a finger unless you're getting paid extra. That's crazy.
No, you're already getting paid though. Like we're not, like those people are already getting paid and they're getting paid to do their job and Tiffany's bonus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember being on stage. This was like out of town and I was doing a set and somebody was like taking a video and I had to throw something at a bouncer to get them to look up from their phone. Because, I mean, I get it. You can't, bouncers are understaffed in some places. Sometimes you have to grab their attention, but
you should be on Tinder.
Get up from your phone to like do your fucking job. Yeah.
Especially when it's a job such as it is, which is, it requires vigilance. It's some serious shit, and I don't know. I think it's like 'cause of how people view us and all the stigma and that we're,
but
less than.
I think it kind of falls like a lot of it on management. Like, who are you hiring and who are you keeping? Like, if that guy, you should have fired that guy right away. Like, you fucked up. You put a woman at risk. You didn't do your fucking job. You now cost her money because she's taking the time from away for her stage set to get your fucking attention.
I look like Sean.
Yeah, you know, and if management had half a brain, they'd realize, okay, now a dancer of ours who's making us money looks like a bitch. She's going to sell less dances, which means less money in our pockets. And now the dancer has cost me money. Like, if you want to make it about money, like your top priority should be assisting your dancers to sell the most dances possible because we're paying you for those dances. It's literally putting money in your pocket.
Yeah, I know.
But somehow that doesn't get to their brain. Help us help you.
It's logical though. Like it's so logical. And I used to say about one of my old bosses, and they'd tell me a story about her about some illogical thing she did. I'd be like, oh, so see, the way that none of that makes sense. So that's why she did that. Because she's always going to do what doesn't make any sense and what's not good for us. Always a choice. And I don't understand why you have a business with workers that are making you millions and millions of dollars and you treat them like shit.
Right. And then you see like the ones that are good hustlers who make the club good money stop wanting to go there. And then you just see like the type of like workers they have at the end of the day. It's like, well, this is a great, like a direct reflection on how you treated your best selling dancers and the ones that like showed up on time every day with their hair and makeup done, like buying the best costumes for stage sets, like putting in the work and like taking their job professionally and seriously. And you never once had their back and you never made the place like a safe, financially beneficial place to be. And they fucked off because like, what else do you expect them to do?
And then, and then you have to hire a bunch of new girls because you don't understand why your house girl not coming in anymore.
Right.
And like, I mean, we sound a little bit negative, maybe because we had a lot of negative experience, but we also have had a lot of good ones where there are managers who do listen, who you can call up and say like, hey, like this needs to get handled. This didn't sit well.
Right.
And also like being in the industry for as long as I have and having a reputation, I like to think of like being pretty like level-headed and a hustler. Like management will listen to you more because they know typically you aren't talking to your ass. But you do get managers who are head in the clouds, can't figure it out. And you're like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I've had plenty of positive experiences as well. I mean, that's why I did it for so long. If it was just all shit the entire time, but I have seen a lot of shit. And with the work that I've been doing for the last 5 years and hearing from people all over the country, how they're getting treated, it's pretty horrendous. I've heard some pretty horrendous stories and, I just want that to be better. I just want that to stop. And the amount of work that goes into making it better, it feels endless because this argument about independent contractor and employee, I'm starting to realize that we're somewhere in between. And I wish that there was like a different scenario for in-between workers. Either that or more rights for independent contractors because there's just not enough protections in place for independent contractors. Like if your boss does something wrong to you, you can't, like, you don't have the right to file ULPs like an employee, which is an unfair labor practice. You can't file a class action suit for unfair wages or for wage theft if you're an independent contractor. Like you can't really go after your boss, but the the clubs in the States are treating dancers half and half. They're saying, oh, you're an independent contractor. You can come and go as you please, which is what an independent contractor is supposed to do. But then what's happening now in some states is if you miss a shift, you pay for it. What on earth is it?
Or if you're late, you pay extra. And
Yep.
yeah. And like
Bullshit.
back to something earlier you said about how this group of individuals lost like months, potentially years of consistent work. And like it's already like, I think, terrifying if we've seen in history is like anyone whistleblowing, right? Like it very rarely falls favorably on them. And then especially now with a marginalized group of mostly women who have no like labor's rights, and then expect us to like ever be able to like stand up for ourselves or even like risk, and then you get blacklisted. I don't know, like, how common that is in the States, but in Canada, like if you have a reputation for like standing up for yourself against a boss, like good luck with any other management wanting to hire you, right? Which is like telling of them, right? Than anything. But yeah, it's pretty fucking dire.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like the best thing we can do is just like talk to each other about these things like publicly.
And like it's almost like shitty that you have to do it this way, but like I make it a point to tell a lot of squares about the industry, because like when a square stands up for a sex worker, somehow for some reason people listen more than when sex workers are telling their own stories and their own like needs and stuff. So unfortunately, you need to kind of like ally yourself with like a little bit of the square community. They're like,
target square.
Help her. Yeah. I mean, that's just the truth for like any marginalized community, I feel like. And I mean, that is why it's so important to have, for the LGBTQ community, it's important to have straight allies. For, people of color, it's important to have, white allies. And for, strippers, it's important to have square allies, because
you're right.
No one's going to just start listening to a marginalized community, unfortunately. And luckily that, we have some people that are trying to bridge that gap and are allies towards the stripper community. As frustrating as it is, like marginalized communities have been knocking on the door to their oppressor for, centuries, and it's not going to change without the help of people on the other side.
Yeah, people with the privilege. And you need to like lend your privilege to people that don't have those privileges.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love that. So you do this like at the club or just like wherever you are? You just see a square? And
I have no problem like fooling anyone anywhere. Like, trust me, in that champagne room, like, so listen, I had to pay. I didn't know this, so I'm an independent contractor, and get this. I had to walk in the door and I had to tip about 40% on this dance. So give me a 40% tip.
Exactly.
No, I have no problem. Honestly, I read the room. I'm not gonna like fuck up my own money. And especially if it's gonna go in one ear of this drunk idiot, right? Like I'll play the role of like third dumb blonde girl who doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
But on the rare occasion that you find someone in the club who's like quizzical or like wants to know more, it's an opportunity, right? And then a big opportunity, being like a single individual now, which is like has not happened for me in a long time, and being in the dating scene, my God, what an opportunity!
Wow. Absolutely.
Yeah. So like when I go on a date, like I'm very much like, I'm a sex worker, like this is why I use that term, blah, blah, like this is how I expect you to like behave around it. If it's not for you, let me know now. I don't want to waste my time. And then if they have questions about the strip club and that, I like tell them. And my biggest like feat is when they like are talking to their friends and they like tell their friends, like I told them, like, actually, did you know? Yes, go far and wide.
Excellent.
Yeah. As soon as somebody, has finished a dance and goes, well, what's a good tip? So glad you asked. Let me tell you how this works.
I pay
this is
I tip about 40%.
Like, well, like every dance that I do, I give the house, $20. So if you can cover, some to all of that, that would be like, like spread it that way.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know, right? Like, they're like, wow, you guys have to pay to be here? You guys aren't paid hourly? Like, no, fuck no.
They don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's always a way to like, not that you have to handle people with kid gloves, but there is a way to like, the saying of like, you'll catch more bees with honey than vinegar, or whatever the saying is.
No, I'm not.
You just said
No,
it.
I'm
Just
very
said
often.
fine.
But yeah, I think there's like a way of doing it in the club setting or any setting where you can like do it playful but still get the point across and still like educate people. I think that's where it's going to
Yeah.
be best, is when you're handling it with some kind of grace rather than just going off
Totally.
this fucking club. Also, like,
Nobody wants to be around that energy.
no,
and
it's that
that's not
energy,
what
and
they go
also
there
too,
for.
like, you don't have a secured position in that club, so I highly recommend you don't talk shit about the club you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
want
that's really genius idea. I like that. I don't if I still worked in the club, I'd probably do more of that. I would use that idea, but I'm just not in there anymore. So that's why I do things like this, because I'm obsessed with strippers. I can't get enough of you.
We are amazing. Doing the Lord's work.
Doing the Lord.
Yeah. Back to like,
Here.
I was gonna say back to like how the clubs were run. I think the most frustrating thing for us is, well, I can't say for you, but for me, is to see like, and as you said, like there are of course great things about the industry. That's why we all do it. But to see so much potential for that industry and then to
Yeah.
kind of watch that squander is like really frustrating, because like we do care about the experiences of our customers. We do want the club to do good. If the club is doing good, we're doing good. And you know,
Right.
it's this very, as I said before, like symbiotic relationship. And to, you know, have so many ideas, and this is not like us, it's just like, you know, strippers in general being like, there are so many ideas of like how everybody in the room can be making more money.
Right.
And the clubs just like don't give dancers the time of day to like listen to their feedback of like how we could be doing better. It's like there's a dissonance between them seeing us as like
Knowledgeable.
but like greedy, I will say. Like, you know, I won't get into
We're greedy.
whole thing about the strip clubs in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And how, you know, there was a manager being like, well, you make X amount of money, you know, per hour in our champagne room. Like, is that not enough for you? When they're making more than 50%, like the payout is more than 50%. And it's just, they don't, like, I feel like there's this difference between like seeing us as greedy and not understanding that if we're making more money, the club is also making more money.
Yeah.
And then instead, like some clubs, I mean, actually pretty much all clubs, response throughout North America is not to collectively make more money, but it's just to take a heavier cutout from the dancers.
Exactly.
I also like, yeah, it's also very obvious to me that every club I've ever worked at is not ran by anyone who has any actual worked experience in the industry. And I don't know, if I owned a club, well, one, as like a dancer, I was a sex worker for so many years, like I would hope I know how to run shit. But if you are running a club and you have no experience in the sex industry as an active worker, why are you not having like meetings with the dancers you see are like knowledgeable or like have a good head on their shoulders or successful, and say, hey, you know what? Do you have any idea, like, since you're on the floor, ways that like you think this club is like dropping the ball? Not to implement them all, but like the amount of times I've gone to manager being like, hey, like, do this happy hour special, like just an idea. You might want to know more about that and like why it might not work. But like from me being with the clients all the time and like seeing where like more people would be coming in, more people would want to spend more time here. Like it's like a constant thing I'm hearing. Like I'm like surveying the room more than you are. So like
Absolutely.
use what I've learned, what I hear.
And as you were saying that, I was like thinking, oh, well, you know, even implementing something like if you sell, like if a dancer sells a bottle of champagne, you get, you know, half the tip from, you know, or like a little bit, what do you call it? When you commission, like
Right.
split the commission with the server. And I was like, oh, but no, they would never think about upping the cut from a server. They would only think about upping the cut. Like,
Yeah.
It's really frustrating. And that's something that we talked about on Tammy's episode, was when she started, a lap dance was $30 or $35 and the tip out was $5. And now that you're making $30 a dance.
Right.
Whereas now a dance is $50 and you tip out $20. So you're still making $30.
Same amount.
You're charging yourself $50.
Yeah, you're
But you're technically making less because of inflation and because the cost of living has gone up
And
and the
trying to
cost
sell
of
it $2 now
care.
for a $30 one. And, like,
Right.
that's another thing too, right? Like, back when I danced in Fort Mac, all those years ago, I'm pretty sure dances were 30 and we tipped out 14 and we got 16. I'm pretty sure that was the cut we had back then, which seems less because in Vancouver, it's $50. You tip out 20 to 30, right? So in
Okay.
Alberta, we were making 17 to Vancouver's 30, but it's a lot easier to sell $30 dances to people and saying we'll do 10 dances for 300 than 10 to 500, right? So you're going to
Right.
sell more dances. So your $17 will like increase faster than your less dances of 30. And like people don't really understand that concept. It's like, oh, you only made $17 dance. Like, yeah, but I was making like X amount of a night and you're making 200 in Vancouver because no one wants to buy a $50 dance.
Right. Right. Is that $50? Is that nude or chop? That's nude.
Full nude.
Probably.
Fully naked.
Full nude. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dances in LA are still $40.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, there's just like so many like it's like the psychology of money, right? Or the psychology of sales that like a lot of clubs too are getting. But a lot of dancers too. Like I can hear the conversations happening in dance rooms beside me and I'm like, oh, what a missed opportunity. If you just said this line or if you had shut the fuck up there. I just like I'm always listening. I'm like, oh, missed up.
Yeah, I do agree with you though that it's like the club is trying to make money off the dancers, not off of the patrons
course.
and off of like the merchandise and the drinks and the
Mhm.
ATM fees and the funny money fees. Like, there was this one particular club that was open temporarily in Los Angeles, and they were having dancers sign a contract that the dancers acknowledged that they were customers of the club.
Okay. So
Yeah.
is the club trying to impress them then?
I mean, yeah, and I guess they thought that that was their way of protecting themselves. I mean, that club's not around anymore, and that's a completely bogus contract and would never hold up in a court of law. But it just goes to show you, like, they are the audacity and the limits that they'll push to, and it just there's not much that I feel like we can do, even as someone who like I help strippers organize, like I encourage and teach strippers how to like fight for their right. But even though I do that work, I can see and I'm very aware of how hard that is and the dangers. And so we train people to like be covert and quiet and things like that because, you know, I don't know about you guys, but when I lost being, I mean, I was a stripper for almost 20 years. You know, like that that was a big deal to me to lose that. And I didn't have a plan in place because my plan was doing what I was doing. I was very happy, you know, and so like for any that's so real for so many dancers. If you get blacklisted, if you get fired from a club, let's say you work somewhere that's more rural and there's only one or two clubs and you get fired and blacklisted, you're butt. Then what? You know? And so I know how hard and scary it is. And I don't even know what the solution is, even as somebody who like I do this work. I've been doing this work for 5 years and I still don't know completely what the solution is other than to like talk to each other. Because I mentioned in our message, like, I'm on the fence of whether or not strippers should unionize, even though I help them do it. I think if you want to do it, then we will help you. But we will, I am not of the way of being like, you should unionize and here's why. That's not at all how I go into any of this type of work because it's very specific to how you're feeling, what your economic situation is, what your literally health roof over your head situation is. And like, just, yeah, sometimes I'm just baffled by everything that's going on.
Do you know how you said that the ABC bill rule?
Yeah, so the ABC is the test that was the stepping stone for AB5, which is the bill.
Okay. Do you know
Yeah.
how that bill is affecting other like independent contractors such as hairdressers who also pay a percentage out? Like is everyone hating it? Is this just like something that's fucking over strippers?
Everyone hates it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm reading. They just released a study in January that talks about a lot of the negative impact. And what it ended up doing was it decreased employment all across the board, decreased employment. And independent employees, workers, I should say, independent contractors, that declined by about 10 to 15%. And then those people, like strippers who were treated like employees, were then brutally exploited. And I think that I can only say this based on just my experience. And so I don't know if this to be fact, but I suspect that strippers got it. Like if there was a list of who got it the worst, we'd be down towards the bottom alongside with like car washers. There's a lot of car washing in LA. It's really nice weather. And a lot of those people are immigrants. And so it would directly affect those people because now, they're undocumented work.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab like universally for every situation you can like pretty confidently assume to the people that are gonna get everything the worst will be the furthest person away from a white cis male.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Pretty
just
much.
curious, like, what other avenues like under the ABC had like, just with the whole, you have still pay us $50 and then you don't. Like, I'm just wondering how that handled and things like chair fees.
Yeah, I don't know that much about that, but I think what the stripping industry in California is doing is just it's kind of like organized crime at this point. Almost every single club is organized crime at this point, as far as how they're handling workers' money. And I don't know how that's working in other industries. I haven't done that research.
Yeah. Maybe some allies to find.
Totally. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. And you, by saying allies to find, you just help me like be like, oh yeah, like we should all be like coming together.
Gotta find those people on the other side of the door.
Exactly.
Yeah. Enemy of your enemy, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so smart. That's so smart. Before we run out of time, I did want to talk a little bit about strippers or workers. Have you guys heard about them?
I haven't known.
Strippers or Workers is an organization in the state of Washington, and they just passed the Stripper Bill of Rights, and it's like the first legislation, like in forever, that is safeguarding strippers. So, I wanted to tell you some of the stuff that was happening up there. So basically, getting nude in the strip club was a crime, which doesn't make any sense.
So fully clothed strip club. We actually get paid for more clothing. Okay, I doubt that. I come in a parka, layer myself up.
Hold on, I have a link with some information. I'll read you the list because I'm terrible at retaining.
To be fair, I think my dream fetish, as much as I love goat worship and beating the shit out of men, I would love if I found a man who was just really turned on by like the more layers I put on, and I, like the scene from Friends where like Joey's wearing all of Chandler's clothes. Not like fetish. Poor guy and pair of box.
That was just the teeny tiniest bikini, and you just like slowly get bigger.
Intimately, right? Intimately putting clothes on. A dream.
I want you to think I'm hot when I have just like blankets draped all over me.
Yeah,
I just want to wear blankets and then I'm hot. Yeah, but no, that's not reality. All right, the dog did something. All right. Okay, so it says here for decades, dancers have suffered from criminalizing regulations that prescribe down to the inch what we can wear and how we can move. Right now in Seattle, so this is an older article, so it's not right now anymore. In Seattle, a dancer cannot be tipped on stage, cannot put their outfit back on near the side of the stage, cannot be paid for private dances up front to ensure they are paid for their work, and cannot give lap dances or even remove a shoe while dancing without committing a crime.
Not even a shoe?
I know.
Not even a
Keep
shoe.
her ankles in, lady, in front.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously they can criminalizing strippers for
This just
performing
got
on.
passed, or this was how it was for Washington?
Yeah, so this is how it was
Okay.
before it got passed. And then, so let's go to this other info here. And this is what the Bill of Rights has. So the bill will include legalization of alcohol service in clubs, 'cause there's no alcohol in that state. Eliminate back rent practices. Regulate higher dancer house fees. So the house fees are getting exorbitant, up to $150, and then like that much if you miss a shift. Yeah. Mandatory training for club employees. Minimum security staffing requirements in clubs. Anti-discrimination protections. Independent contractor affirmative protections. Panic button requirements and customer blacklist requirement. So this passed last month.
When's it get implemented?
I think they're in the process. The governor's in the process of signing. I think they have another couple of weeks or so. And then they also said this. Hold on. Washington is the last state to not have some form of alcohol service, and alcohol service has been found by strippers and scientific research to actually make clubs safer and more equitable. So that's really exciting news. It's a big deal. Yeah.
I feel like Washington has kind of always been
Weird.
no, for like in terms of the like passing this sort of thing and like ruling in favor of sex workers has always been kind of like a little bit better. And we had a Karma on who was a bikini barista, and there was, I mean, this was a while back, but there was a court case against scantily clad women in bikini barista booths, and people of surrounding areas kind of had a problem with that, and they ruled in favor of the Washington. I believe so.
Ruled in favor of the workers.
Yeah, I believe it was in Washington. I could be wrong, but
I know.
I do remember. You're talking about during the pandemic, right? There were bikini. I remember bikini baristas. It was supposed to be like a coffee club.
Yeah, they're still around.
Drive
Through
through
in California still. We just had a coffee barista on. I believe she's in California based.
Is she topless? Is she making coffee topless?
No,
or
they're in just bikinis, and it's just like a little shack, and you drive up, you get your like coffee, your double or whatever. California.
That's where I want to get my coffee.
Yeah,
I want to get my coffee there.
They seem to like it, and they just tip really well, and they fuck off with their 6 a.m. coffee, and they saw cleavage.
Yeah, bikini baristas win lawsuit over unconstitutional dress code in Washington.
Cool. We'll send you the link. You put it.
Yeah, let's, because I would like to share all of these links. I even want to share links to the articles that I found on AB5 so that dancers can read about that.
We'll include it right up too.
Yeah, that would be awesome, because I'm getting ready to talk to somebody on my team and be like, yo, is this a thing we need to be worried about, or am I being paranoid? I don't know yet. But I'll whistle blow. I don't give a fuck. Nobody can fire
Blow that
me.
whistle, bitch.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what's going on. It's kind of a shit show, but kind of great at the same time, because what I'm noticing, here's another thing that I'm noticing. Strippers are doing it for themselves. We have co-ops, more co-ops popping up. There's still more like individual satellite shows that started during the pandemic that kind of kept going. And then like strippers are buying clubs. Like Molly the stripper just bought her burlesque bar.
Love it.
Has been posting all about it on Instagram. And so, in an ideal world, I actually do know the solution. Remember I said I didn't know the solution? I lied by accident. I do know the solution. The solution is we just take the fuck over. We take it. We run it. We figure out how to buy it. We kick them out. Fire them.
Love it.
Yeah.
As you're saying Parisian, all I'm picturing is angry white men then shutting us down. Because God forbid somebody who's not a white man profits off us.
Right. I know. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like it's a big, far dream, but
that's how anything gets changed, right?
Yeah. I can dream.
We're dreaming with it.
Yeah, we're right there.
Okay. Anything on your end before we sign off? Did you have any more thoughts on anything or any questions?
Yeah, I think
for
the
me?
biggest thing is just like it's just like Ryan said, it's disappointing when you think of like the potential for like the sex work industry it can be such a beautiful industry, and like the benefits and the positives it can bring. And like I always joke, like we're the Mother Teresa of whores, and like kind of are though. Like you're literally providing people with like orgasms and happiness and wet dreams and like,
intimacy and
and
companionship.
and then not even to mention like I've had conversations with people about like people that suffer with that are not able-bodied, and how like sex work has given them like such an outlet, or like people who have had like trigger warning, like, sexual assault instances, and can like heal through sex work. And not that everything needs to be this like Mother Teresa act to like justify sex work, but there is that aspect in sex work, and just in general that if you are providing people with a solid time, and
Definitely.
yeah, it's so disappointing when we constantly just have to fight to like be treated like basic fucking humans.
Yeah, human touch is such a necessity in life.
Absolutely.
Literally a key to survival. And sex work is some people's only, connection to that.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's not all that. Sometimes it was nasty on the 11th stage, but there are really crucial parts of sex work, and the whole industry needs to be protected.
No, I agree. I think the world would be a better place if we were not judged for intimacy.
And we're being judged for the things that everyone else does, but we just like profit off it. It's just hilarious to me that like you'd be fine if we did it for free, but the fact that like we profit off the typically male gaze is the issue, and that's why you hate us, because we turned it on its head and we're not just for your free consumption. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, totally.
And I love the idea of dreaming big, and I love the idea of like, imagine in a world where it's just like people with actual like lived experience in the sex industry running these kind of communities, and running the running like the body houses, and running strip clubs and all that. I think it's a lofty dream, but it's a lovely one. And I think like, but you can start small too, right? Like I was joking about like just talking on a date with a guy, being very honest and candid with like my experience in the sex industry and how much I love sex workers and how much I love my community, and I will have no patience for someone who doesn't, and like just having a very strong stance on that. Can, like, even if it just impacts that one person, maybe they, like I said, maybe they have a conversation with another buddy, and maybe he's can give it a certain way. Maybe the next one they go in strip club, they tip better, or they treat the women better, or like you can start like, small in those small ways too, right?
And when I came out as a dancer to my mom, obviously like she's of a generation that knows nothing about sex work and thinks that stripping, you're one type of person, or you have one type of life, and your experience in the club is like, you're being pimped, you're being taken advantage of, X, Y, and Z. And I said to her, the reason why I want to be so open about what I do as a career is because it takes meeting one person to challenge how people see sex workers. Because now, even with my mom, I was like, well, the person that you raised, and you raised me to be a good and a fair and like a nice person. So if someone, quote unquote, like me can be someone like that, then maybe your idea of that needs to change, and it's not correct. And so I think that, as you said, Danica, like if you can just spread awareness to one person, that's all it takes for the mentality to change.
Yeah. You're right. Just trying to make your corner of the world a little bit better, little by little. Yeah.
And also, like, I also don't, and I've always been a very out sex worker. I've never hidden, I've been dating for over a decade. I've never once hid that, with that mentality of like, I consciously made this decision to enter into sex work. I'll handle the stigma. I'll take it like head on. And like, and hopefully each person interacts with me, like I can meet them in a way that challenges what they think of a sex worker is.
Yeah.
And that's worth it to me, to like face all the stigma and like not hide behind things. That being said, I completely understand that like as like a white pathing individual, and like a very like coming from where I come from and everything, I have like privilege that allows me to be like a very front facing sex worker. So I would never judge someone who wants to like keep their sex worker identity hidden as well, right?
Or yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah, we're definitely as same for me as a very white person. I had a ton of privilege in this industry and in the community, um and I think that there's like a level of responsibility definitely that comes with that. And I honestly, that's why I do the work that I do now. I was like, oh, I can't strip anymore. Well, then let me just like help everybody because there's so much to do still. And I was afforded so much and I always got the good shifts. You know? And so I want to give back as much as possible because I love the community and I do love the industry. I just don't love the people who are running it. And I think that we should be running it.
And if I can share kind of like one closing thought, just like in terms of having the privilege to like, you know, talk very openly about, you know, the job that I have. And there was a video posted on our main page in the sex worker industry that shared the experience of someone who was in the full service industry. And there was a lot of really negative feedback from strippers. And I just think that, you know, with this being said, the industry is what it is because of our full service sex worker sisters. And we would not be able to be open and we would not be able to work in as a safer place, you know, as we can today without, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears of the escorts and prostitutes. And so I think it's so important. Like, if we're sitting here being like, well, if I can be a stripper, then maybe the idea of what a stripper is wrong, you know, of some people's opinion. Like, if you're a dancer and you have a problem with full service sex work, you should reflect on that as well, because there's a chance that that part of the industry is not what you think it is. And we are already, you know, we're already ostracized. So to then like hit yourself against people in your industry and an industry that you profit off thanks to these women is like, it's really problematic. And I just think that as strippers, it is easier to be open about what we do. And I will be damned if I am part of the hierarchy.
Yep. I agree. I'm so glad we're on the same page. 100%. I didn't see the actual post. I saw
down.
So I saw that. And I kind of like put together pieces, but I absolutely agree with you. That is cannibalizing each other. That is going against each other. It is the system that is the problem. It is not our siblings that are the problem.
Wow.
And we all choose to do what we choose to do. And it is our choice at the end of the day. And I'm not judging anyone for it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I never had when I was younger. And I was disillusioned and I didn't understand nearly as much as I did. I definitely suffered from whorephobia, and getting over my whorephobia is literally one of like the healthiest things I ever did for my mind, because while you're suffering from whorephobia, you're not just judging other people, you're judging yourself. You're judging every move that you make, and so you're just being horrible to yourself in the process. But I'm so glad you brought that up, because that does seem to be kind of a conversation that's coming up in the industry. And I think it's really important for people to find ways to overcome their whorephobia, because we need to stand by each other. Yeah.
It's so frustrating because, yeah, you just see people want to change the mentality, you know, of what you do. But at the same time, they're so resistant to changing their mentality of what, you know, our fellow sex workers do.
I just think it's fucking hilarious. You're just mad because someone's doing something for money that you do for free, and they're profiting off it. Like, when people are like, "Oh, you fuck for money," it's like, bitch, you fuck for free. You fuck, you literally for free. I love people saying that. Like,
I know someone. I know people like that have like consistent casual sex and don't get paid shit for it. And I'm over here like, wait,
yeah,
that's what it's worth.
Yeah, if you're good at something, don't do it for free.
And not to shame people who enjoy rec sex either, but like it's a two-way street. Yeah, like don't shame people for
Don't
selling.
shame me for it. I won't shame you for it.
I truly I truly don't care as long as someone's being safe. I do not care what someone's doing. The only time I ever like care is if I'm in a club where like services are not allowed, and like someone is trying to do service in that club because it does like impact the like club. That's the only thing I give a fuck about. I have so many of my girlfriends who are full service sex workers, and like, fuck yes, make your money.
Totally. Yeah.
And that comes down to a safety thing too. Like if guys, and if probably also, clubs not setting proper boundaries of what is not allowed is the problem. Again, it's not the girls, it's
well, yeah, that's because it's criminalized. Because it's not decrimmed in Canada, is it?
No.
Right, it's still illegal.
No, it's a Nordic model here, yeah.
The Nordic model. Oh no.
Yeah. So yeah, like selling's legal, buying's illegal.
Yeah. Oh.
Which is literally the worst situation you could put sex work in. But
they're like, we're trying to help you. It's like, no, you're not.
Yeah. If you want to like know more about like what's going on in Canada, like if you look up Bedford case and then Bill C-36 and then the PCEPA laws, gives kind of like the general idea of over the last 8 years, I think, what's happened with like full service sex work and that. So yeah.
Okay.
More light reading.
More light reading.
Yeah. It's messy on this side too, don't worry.
And the UK is a mess too. It's just everywhere. So
gotta join forces.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I notice that I say a lot of she and her, and I acknowledge that like not all sex workers are a woman, or I did as such, and like all of my feelings expand to those who are not female identifying.
Same. It took me a couple of years to stop saying girls, because I'm like, we're not all girls though. Yeah. So it's such like it's a practice. It was like a serious practice for years, and I finally got there. Every now and then I will say like girl, but yeah, it took a while.
It's like just like actively trying, right? You're gonna have to while.
Yeah, definitely, and it takes time. But it was. I'll tell you. I'll be really transparent. We got a message once through the podcast from somebody who did not identify as female and was a stripper, and was like, I don't feel like this is a space for me because everyone says girl all the time. And then that was when I was like, eat. And that's when I started to work really hard to change that. So I appreciate you acknowledging that, Riley. That's because I know lots of male strippers.
Yeah, and male strippers and not binary. Yeah, everything.
Exactly.
Collected all of them over our side.
And here saying, like don't ostracize like the people in our community, as I'm like very thanks,
Yeah, but you're acknowledging it, and you're trying, and that's the thing. If you're trying, it's not like you're trying to be an asshole. You're trying to be a good person, and there's only so much we can do. Fuck, I just saw this Instagram video of this woman, and she's like, you expect me to be educated, feel good, make money, exercise, eat right, sleep well, do yoga, meditate. You know what I mean? It's like, how the fuck are we supposed to do all of these things? I think you both are doing amazing. I'm doing amazing. And I know our listeners are amazing and always trying their best. And that's all we can do.
Go team.
Yeah. This was so nice. My cheeks are all flushed. Thank you so much for spending this hour with me.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. So can we share follow information in case some of our audience members don't know each other?
Definitely. Yeah. So again, my name is Danica
Riley,
and we are the hosts of 50 Plus a Tip. You can find us on Instagram at 50 Plus a Tip Pod. That's 50 Plus a Tip Pod. And you can email us with any questions, comments, all that good stuff at 50plusatip@gmail.com.
Awesome. I'm AM Davies, one of the hosts of YAS Stripper Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at YAS Stripper Podcast. You can also find us on TikTok, y'all. I am terrified of TikTok, but we're on there. Like 42 followers. And that handle is YAS Pod Store. I specifically did not want to put the word stripper in that handle to avoid shadow banning. So it's YASPOD store, because we have a podcast and now we have a merch store. So we are two things in one. That is yesastripperpodcast.com and yesastripper.com for the store. Thank you. I think that's it.
Lovely.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a great time over there in Canada, whatever you're doing today.
All right, going to class.
And I have final week, so I am going home to study.
Good luck with that.
God forbid we have birds.
All right, everyone, signing off. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Thank you.
And that's on Period Network.